Hello and welcome. A Holy Spirit, Faith, Reconstruction, and Elon Musk. That's the title that I've got in my head at the moment, the working title. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it at that for this video. A little bit worried that the algorithm won't know what to do with it because I don't normally talk about public figures directly or name them. This is a channel all about deconstruction and reconstruction of faith. Complete new way of understanding the world, Jesus, the Bible, God, what it's all about, meaning and purpose, all of that. Letting go of what's not serving us anymore, just letting go of all the old stuff and finding something real and meaningful. So it's my journey on that, sharing it with you and making lovely connections with those of you who resonate with anything that I'm saying. So if you're new here, welcome. For those of you who are returning, thank you for staying with me, for being interested in my content. If you're not already subscribed, please do. I forget to say that, but it really does help. And it's encouraging when I see that this content is valuable to people. There are many other ways of knowing that. Actually, your comments are the most valuable thing because they're so rich in stimulus for carrying on other conversations, which we have done lots. But today, I really want to go back to that passage in the previous video, which was about Mary outside the tomb. For people who are only here for Elon Musk, I will try to. I will try to put in chapters so that you can skip to the part of the video you're most interested in, but hopefully you'll stay for the whole ride. So we looked at Mary outside the tomb, having to acknowledge that Jesus wasn't there anymore. The tomb represents her old understanding, possibly in a literal sense, church, for those of you who have experienced it as stagnation, as emptiness. For those of you who have experienced trauma, it's like a kind of dying to what the old way was. You just can't go back there, you can't return there. She turns her back on the tomb, which was the last place she encountered Jesus. And when she's turning away, because she's still expecting him to be there, she thinks she's walking away from him, then she encounters him, but she doesn't recognize him. She doesn't recognize him because she thought she'd left him behind. How many of you can resonate with that? You do your deconstruction and you think you've got to become an atheist. You think that's part of the deal. I don't believe anymore. Jesus doesn't care. Doesn't care what you believe. He actually doesn't care whether you go to church, what dogma or doctrines you believe, whether you're a signed up member of a church, whether you're taking Holy Communion or Mass, or whether you're baptized. Does not care. He is there. But why is he there? Because where you are going, he is there. He's before you. She turns around, she sees someone, and she doesn't recognize him. This is what we said. He's just in the mundane of your life, in the everyday. But you can't escape. You can't escape Jesus. He just is a shapeshifter, and he will manifest in a different way. So, by all means, leave church behind. Just don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Okay? That was the message. And we went on to, the part in the Bible where she goes and tells the disciples, and they're like, don't believe. And then he appears later to them and says, in the upper room, I think it is in a locked room. Now, what was exciting and different about my enthusiasm for this, why I'm enthusiastic, is I'm using a different text. I'm using the Bible. I'm using a different translation rather. So it is like a new text. It gives it some freshness. And I'm really loving it. It's by David Bentley Hart, and he's a biblical scholar, and his interest is going back to culture, taking away all the cultural baggage of Christianity, of westernized Christianity. So as a scholar, he can access the text in a more raw and immediate way that you and I can't, because we don't have those years of study of Aramaic and Greek and so on. So I like what I'm reading here, what is being rendered up from that new, fresh look at the text. And it's this bit that I wanted to talk about. Jesus says to them, he breathed upon them and says to them, receive a Holy Spirit. Receive a Holy Spirit. It's not receive the Holy Spirit. Now you might say, why are you making a big fuss about one word? It means a huge difference. What a difference a word makes. Because the Holy Spirit just smacks of the doctrine, the creed, the Apostles' Creed, doesn't it? All that, the whole, the formulation of Trinitarian doctrine and belief with the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. And I've even heard people just getting really cross when people talk about Spirit or Holy Spirit. It has to be the Holy Spirit, or else it's not Christian, it's demonic, and you're being led astray. Well, actually, a Holy Spirit is more true to the original texts. How about that then? So are we following something that is a development of man, or are we really interested in getting back to the real Jesus, or as close as we can to him? Jesus said, receive a Holy Spirit. What does that tell us? It tells us that Jesus had an understanding of the supernatural in a way that we don't. He understood that it was a whole, in the invisible realm is occupied by spirits, supernatural beings, some of them more powerful than others. And there's a real mixed bag there. Some of them are good, some of them are not so good. And he's saying, receive a Holy Spirit. Don't be listening to or aligning yourself with one of the bad ones that come and whisper stuff and deceive you. Now, I'm just going to back up a little bit just to qualify what I'm saying, because you might say, oh, does she know all this? Are you just making all this up? No, I'm not. The Unseen Realm by Michael Heiser, he's come up against a bit of stick from fundamentalist Christians, fundamentalist conservative Christians who are defending their own ideology, usually a political ideology. He's a biblical scholar, sadly died last year. It might have been the year before, actually. Now I think it was the year before. But he, a real conservative Christian and evangelist, And one day in church, Psalm 82 caught his attention. The psalm that says something about, what does it say now? I haven't got it hand to say. In the assembly of the gods, he stood in the assembly of the gods with a small g, and it's plural, and it's that Elohim, and it's like, why? There's only one God. Wait a minute, why does it say Yahweh stands in this assembly of the gods? Or he announces, he holds court in the assembly of the gods. And it led him on a biblical study. Again, a theologian, a Bible scholar, rather. And he says, I'm reading from this book, I now view Psalm 82 as an important piece of a larger mesmerizing mosaic. Psalm 82 has at its core the unseen realm and its interaction with the human world. Its interaction with the human world. This might remind you a little bit of some of the ancient texts, the Gnostics. The Gnostics have their own mythology, if you like. It's a mythology of the Archons. It is biblical that there were some angels that were thrown out of heaven. I haven't got all the texts here to hand. You know this, and I have done videos on this. You can find videos on my channel where I've talked about the angels that rebelled and they fell. So they went to this place on earth, and then they were mesmerized by or enticed by power. They just wanted to power. So instead of angels starting off as being obedient and serving God, being in service, they decided they wanted a bit of that real estate for themselves, and then they saw the women of earth and desired them, and then they mated, and then they, you've got all of that about what are they called? The giants, the Nephilim. Is it the Nephilim? It's all a bit vague now because I didn't intend to talk about that. But the point is, those fallen angels are what are called Archons in the Gnostic tradition. And this is to do with powerful Archons, or archetypes, as Jung would call them. that influence consciousness and mind. And this coheres with Jesus saying, receive a Holy Spirit. Don't receive or be running unconsciously the mindset of the world, which are the unholy spirits. And what the unholy spirits be, because they're just after your energy. In the Pistis Sophia story, which is a Gnostic text, you have wisdom falling and getting trapped in the lower realms, and we said that was like the lower levels of consciousness. She really wants to get out of that, but she's trapped because she's lured in by the Archons, and then they feed off her energy. They feed off your and my energy when we just get locked into worldly thinking, earthly, lower vibrational consciousness and ways of thinking. When you get caught up with the ideologies, caught up with the latest stuff that we're being fed often by the churches, but also by the influencers. It's interesting, isn't it? It's influencers, the ones that have the big channels, the ones that have millions. That's because people have been feeding them and they're growing. You know, it's red flag for the Archons. Done a deal with the devil. It's like Jesus standing or being taken to the top of the temple or the top of the mountain, forget which it is, but the oppressor, the enemy, the adversary, or Satan, the enemy, saying, what do you want? All this, I'll give you all of this. All this that you can see, as far as the eye can see, I'll give you it all. I'll give you all the influence in the world if you bow down and worship me. That's the deal you have to make if you are going to have worldly success. So all these mega churches and all these massive influencers who are supposedly spiritual teachers, beware. It's a deception because it's a fallen angel. There is an angel, it is powerful, and you know it can masquerade as an angel of light. You know it all. You've heard all this before. But this is where we come on to Elon Musk. Elohim. Now let me just talk to you about this. In Ezekiel, it mentions a prince of Tyre. Prince of Tyre, who God accuses this prince of extraordinary arrogance. I need to just back up a little bit and say that in the Phoenician world, in ancient world, Mesopotamia and Phoenicia, they had a god known as El with a capital E. It was like a proper name for the god that they worshipped, and they used to call him El Elyon. I think I'm right in that. Let me have a look. Yeah, El Elyon, which Elyon means the Most High. So he was known as the Creator God, because if he's the God Most High, it means there's no one higher, so he must be the one that's in charge of everything and rules supremely. So that's what Elyon means. All right? And when you hear in the Bible, you hear Yahweh described as the Most High, it's because the Israelites were taking issue with a false claim of who was the Most High God. And we might think, oh, we know that already. We know that they had different tribal gods and that the tribal gods were all warring. And then they tried to sort of make out, oh, look, Yahweh is stronger, like with Baal, where they had the, sacrifices, didn't they? And they said, you try and get yours to light. Well, now we'll throw water all over the bowl or whatever it was, and we'll call on the name of our God, and look, it sets a light. In other words, our God's better than your God. Not talking about that. This is something I wasn't aware of, that there was a prince, a person, Prince of Tyre, Tyre, and that was a Phoenician city, and he was calling himself Elyon, So he adopted the name Elyon, Elyon. And this is what the Israelites were protesting against, because saying you're a person and you're trying to claim that you're God Most High, you're using that name for yourself. Where in fact there is only one supreme God, creator God, and that's Yahweh. And that's why Yahweh in the Old Testament is often referred to as the Most High. There you go. To tell people you're wrong for allowing a human being to use that name. Only God, only Yahweh, only the true God, living God, Spirit, Creator God is the Most High. Now, does this chime for you with anything that's happening today? Let me just show you a little, this little diagram that I wrote ages. I can't even. Is that going to let me show you that? I don't know. It's not going to like it, is it? This camera. So we've got Elohim. There are lots of Elohim. I'll come back to what I was saying about how it chimes. I haven't forgotten that. Elohim is just a name for the spirits in the unseen realm. Elohim can be a spirit of an ancestor in the Bible. When David calls on an ancestor to come and actually give him some advice about something. So there's a biblical mandate or preface for that. Okay? It can be angels. It can be rulers, divine rulers who've died. Can be good or bad spirits. But there are lots of them. And so Yahweh is an Elohim. But he's also Elohim Elyon, because he's the Most High, and there's only one that stands supreme among the council of the Elohim, the divine council. Now, if that's a bit confusing and I haven't explained it very well, do look out for this book or look on YouTube and you'll be able to watch videos where Michael Heiser is actually talking about that a little bit more. So a human being who tried to be God, who believed he was God, maybe let other people believe he was God, maybe he wanted the power to influence other people all over the world. Maybe he was a very rich prince, and so his wealth gave him great power and influence, and he took on the name Elyon. Now just think about the letters in that name, and just think if you take one of the letters out of that name, we have Elon. And history repeats itself. You see, what the Bible is a story of the soul. It's a handbook for the soul. It's about human consciousness and the evolution of human consciousness to enlightenment. And the stories repeat. They're not historical facts about people that lived and died that we can just learn something from those stories about the nature of God. It's much more than that. They are patterns in the consciousness that will keep showing up and repeating until we get the message, until we understand, until we become enlightened. So the lesson for today is there are lots of spirits. Receive a Holy Spirit. That's the call. That's what we're asked to do. That's what Jesus asked his followers to do. Receive a Holy Spirit. Make sure it is a holy one. Not an unholy one, not one that deceives, not one that's masquerading as an angel of light. How do you know? Because they'll try to assume that place of power and influence that's only God's. Only for the Most High God. Yeah, that really spoke powerfully to me today. I'd never before made that connection. I'm just loving working my way through using that book, saying so much. There is so much that we have inherited in our understanding of the Bible through our conditioning, and to go back and see it afresh, it's just so liberating. So I hope this has spoken to you. I hope it's inspired you. Let me know your thoughts in the comments as always. And for now, take care. God bless. Bye for now.